Hi. You know, I like to always bring my guests to you up close and personal. And today, you're in for an extraordinary treat. It brings me great pleasure to bring to you percussionist extraordinaire, Mr. Garl Germany.
Thank you.
How you doing, man?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's
Great,
good.
great.
I'm glad you took time to come down and sit down and talk to us for a little while.
I'm glad you invited me. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you.
All right, and I tell you what, to get this ball rolling,
Yes, sir.
we're gonna go all the way back to the beginning. Where was you born?
Right here in Pittsburgh, McGee Women's Hospital.
Is that right? So where was you raised at?
I was raised in the Hill District.
Hill District.
Yeah, throughout the Hill, Upper Hill, Lower Hill.
Yeah. Now, what was that like for you growing up there in the Hill District back then?
Very exciting times, man. It was so much activity. It was so many people, so many beautiful relationships. The Hill was just a beautiful, beautiful place. And it really still is today.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to look at the richness of the people, you know, the characters, and you know, some of them are still around, some of them are not here with us anymore. But they left such a beautiful legacy that I still consider myself a Hill District boy.
All right, all right. Now, as a young child in the Hill District, what did you do for fun when you were little, man?
We basketball. I was raised up in Bentley Drive. We played a lot of ball. We did a lot of running. We did a lot of activity events. You know.
Yeah.
We just had an abundance. We had a great mentor in our neighborhood. His name was Mr. Bernard Jones.
Bernard Jones.
Bernard Jones.
Poisey Foundation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones was, he went away to college, came back, and we were pretty much like a gang in our neighborhood. And he took us as a gang and taught us the Robert Rules of Orders out of Hill City in the, off of Bedford Avenue. He organized us as a athletic club. And then he did the same thing on Whiteside Road and the radio class. He had so many activities there that he blended all, you know, the whole Hill District together. And you know, we're still very close friends to this day. You know, the guys from Whiteside, the guys from Bentley Drive, and throughout the Hill District. So I owe a lot to Mr. Jones. Bernard Jones.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. Now, are you an only child?
No, I'm not. I have abundance of brothers and sisters. Believe me.
Is that right?
I have a brother who, by my mother, my dad had some children, and so I have a large, rich family.
Yeah.
There's plenty of us.
Now let me ask you this: is there anyone in your family that's also musically inclined?
Well, actually, I got started with my uncle. When I first started playing congos, he used to sing. He had a singing group. It was called the El Caprice. This group they were so talented, and I was so amazed at their talent. I had as they would sing and sing in the neighborhood, that's when I first started becoming interested in like the bongos. He played and made his own bongos and congos.
Oh, really?
And wrote songs for a singing group. And that's how I actually became interested.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, from my understanding, your mother also is a musician.
My mother was a singer.
Yeah.
She sang gospel. She emceed at a nightclub downtown called the Zanzibar, I believe it was. And she used to sing. She actually brought a Richard Pryor to our home. Wow. And it was so amazing. He stayed all night, you know, and he made us laugh all, you know. This was before he became famous.
Right.
And then after he became famous, we was like, oh, wow, Richard Pryor was here.
Yeah.
Then we realized who Richard Pryor was.
Interesting. A lot of people For those of you who do not know, a percussion instrument is an instrument that is played by striking it. And my question to you is, I know you just told us about how you got interested in the conga drums, but how did you first get interested in percussion instruments? Because you also are a percussionist. You play the cowbells and other percussion instruments. Did you get interested after you had discovered the congas, or were you interested in the percussion before that, before the congas?
Well, actually, my uncle wrote a song. His song was called Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa.
Get out of here.
And it went, the song went like, have you been to the islands in the Caribbean where the boys wear shorts and the girls wear jeans?
Okay.
They haven't got an eye for the latest style, but you should hear the way they carry about. And as they gather around the fire, you could hear this song go, shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy, pop. And that was my first beat. So I had to learn that beat, and it went shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy, pop.
Yeah.
Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop. And so that's how I started beginning to play bongos. And I didn't have bongos, so I used pots and pans.
Is that right?
Out of my mother's kitchen.
Now let me ask you, how old was you when all this was taking place?
I was somewhere between the ages of 8 to 10.
Is that right? So you
around
was still pretty much elementary school.
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
elementary.
Now, did you
school.
play in the elementary school band at all?
No, I didn't. I didn't. No, I didn't start. I just played on the streets.
Okay.
Pretty much, you know, the streets of Pittsburgh. I learned different rhythms from different guys that were around. You know, that taught me different things.
Yeah. Well, what about junior high school? Did you do any playing when you were in junior high?
When I was in junior high school, there was a guy who lived in my neighborhood. His name was Arthur McGeorge. Him and I would play at night, but we used to go around and hear some percussionists. They were pretty much street percussionists. And amongst the street percussionists was J.C. Moses, Bongo Kenny, Puggy. I mean, these cats, Ron Johnson Bay, these guys would have the neighborhood humming with music and rhythms, you know, all hours of the night. So it was just a fantastic time to be alive and learning.
Right.
And then at around the same time, a local percussionist, his name is Earl, they call him Earl Reynolds, his name is Mabutu. Him and I used to play together.
Okay.
And, you know, he went on and played with Grant Green and George Benson and a whole lot of famous artists, you know.
Yeah. So from up until like junior high school, you hadn't gotten your own set of congas or bongos yet?
No, actually, I had a pair of bongos, but they were so, they weren't the professional grade.
You tore them up?
I tore them up.
I
mean, I beat
up.
through them things.
Like they stole something off.
Right. And then, you know, with my household, you know, and my family side, my parents couldn't afford, you know, that kind of instrument for me. So, and then I also, during the junior high school years, I was passionate with athletics. So I was on the track team, I was on the basketball team, you know, I ran cross country, and I was playing baseball, I was doing all those type of things. So that was really where my passion was at that early age, you know, even though my heart was still in love with percussion instruments. Every time I would get around one, you know, I would play it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Now, during this period of time, you know, elementary school, junior high school, were you listening to music? And if you was, what kind of music was you listening to?
Well, the music that I was listening to was the Motown groove. You know, I mean, the Motown sound had the everybody's ear, you know. I mean, the music that was coming out of Detroit was so exciting that, you know, it had everybody wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of there was a percussionist who played with Marvin Gaye. I think his name was Kenny also. His rhythm, he had like a street rhythm, but it was completely his own pattern. It wasn't patterned after anyone particular, but you could hear it consistently on a lot of Motown records, and that always piqued my interest, you know.
okay.
Like, who is this percussionist?
Yeah.
And then Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield's percussion, Mr. Master Henry Gibson.
Henry Gibson,
That
come
was,
on in. We were just watching him yesterday.
Oh,
man.
really?
Yeah, I got one of his DVDs at home. You
Oh,
gotta see it.
yeah. I mean, I was just fascinated about the way he could play congas and bongas at the same time.
Right.
You know, it was very impressive.
Yeah, good. Now, when you you went to Fifth Avenue High School, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you got to Fifth Avenue, you got involved with a different area of music. When we come back, would you tell us what that was all about?
Oh, certainly.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Garl Germany, up close and personal.
Oh yeah. Wanna buy a new car? Well, but the price ain't right. Be a little flat cheaper, yes it was. Start riding the bike. They're making milk out of powder, yeah they are. Got the babies crying, they don't know what that stuff is. Rent's gone up higher. Wow. Got the fast line. I'll pay tomorrow. Now there's a real motherfucker. Makes you wanna rub a gummy as a dip. And if you look, you will discover it is a real motherfucker. Oh! Got to go to a disco. Wow. Throw my troubles away. Dance to the music. Yeah, yeah. Let the DJ play. Then the lights come on. Wow. Like you knew they would. Go home to face some silly music. Wow. Don't sound too good now. Wow. Now there's a real motherfucker. Makes you wanna rub a cover as a doobie. And if you look, you will discover it is a real motherfucker. Say what? It is a real motherfucker. A good God. know what, man? I think I'm gonna step across the street to that get-go and buy me 3 gallons of low lead, you know. I might just have just enough money to buy me 2 hot dogs and a cherry Coke, you know why? Why? Now this is a real motherfucker. Real motherfucker. Real motherfucker, babe. Real motherfucker. Real motherfucker. Real motherfucker. Real motherfucker. Real motherfucker. Now that's a real motherfucker. Makes you wanna rub the cover, yes, it do, babe. And if you look, you will discover that it's a real motherfucker. Said it's a real motherfucker. Said it's a real motherfucker. One more time for good measures. Said it's a real motherfucker. Yeah, taste the flavor, y'all.
For those of you just joining us, we're here with percussionist extraordinaire, Mr. Garl Germany. Hey, y'all, you know your band is kicking.
Thank you.
Excellent band.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now look, let's get back to the interview. You went to Fifth Avenue High School, and you were singing doo-wop when you were at Fifth Avenue. Could you tell us about that?
There were some exceptional singers within my class. The guys that I was around, I got a guy named David Witherspoon. He sang, I guess he would be on the pair of Luther Vandross. He had an exceptional voice. There was another guy, George Gray. There was Philip Smith, Bucky Daniels. We all got together. We used to actually sing in the hallways throughout Fifth, you know, and it was so amazing because these guys were so exceptional, and I would just watch them sing, and I'd be trying to sing with them, and it just was, I always couldn't hold that background, so they put me way down, had me doing the bass parts and stuff like that there.
Yeah.
But it was so exciting because, I mean, I thought if we lived in another era or another city where there was a lot of recording going on, I think these guys would be some of the most famous guys around.
Mm-hmm.
Philip actually went on and he sang with a local group that I was impressed with, a group These Gents.
Okay.
And he sang with them for a while.
What's his name?
Philip Smith, but he passed on. We sang at our church at Central Baptist. We were singing in the choir, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Now, there was another name that I recognized, Richard Harris.
Richard Harris.
Yeah.
Richard Harris taught me stage presence. I've known Richard Harris since my uncle was singing on the balcony at a Podolsky store on Webster Avenue. Mm-hmm. Richard Harris was his dad was like the band leader of the North Side Elster band, their parade band. Okay. Richard taught me stage presence. We used to get up, we danced. Richard was an exceptional dancer, man. Mm-hmm. He had me dancing, figuring out choreographies for his singing group. He also was one of the original founders with George Benson and the Altiers. Mm-hmm. Richard was, he sang baritone there, and just an exceptional guy, man. I'm crazy about Richard.
You know, it's funny you said that because 2 weeks ago I was in Weirton, West Virginia. I was playing drums for the Marcells.
Oh,
Well, you
okay.
know Richard Harris sings with
He
them.
sings with them.
So yeah, so I've been,
Yes,
me
he
and
does.
Richard,
Yeah.
we've been performing together for quite a few decades here.
Oh yeah, Richard, he sang with Dinah Washington.
Exactly right.
And he would always say, as he turned, you know how to face the audience, and you know how your poise and points. And he took dance lessons from Charlie Atkins, of the choreographer for the Temptations and stuff. So Richard's a very, very historical figure,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
as far as doo-wop and music in Pittsburgh.
Right, I've been trying to get him in here, man. I'm gonna get him in here sooner or later.
Yeah, he has a rich history.
Right. Now look, after high school, you met up with a gentleman named Lester Ellis.
Yep.
And your cousin Tony Mock.
Right.
Tell us about that. What
Well,
was that
they
all?
were playing guitars. They're both guitarists. And they said they were forming a group, and they asked me to join in with them and play some percussions. Tony always knew that I played percussion because from being within the family, you know. And he was playing with a group called Curtis Price and Afro Americans. And he wanted to form his own group. So him and I and Lester Ellis, we all got together and started our own group. And that's actually the first time that I started performing publicly as an entertainer.
Yeah. So we got a lot in common. Richard Harris, we both admire and work with Richard Harris. Now your cousin Tony Mock. The first time that I went into a recording studio, we recorded a record, and Tony Mock was on guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I too like to sing, but I didn't go to Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
I went to Allegheny.
Oh,
and y'all
yeah.
did beat us in the basketball game, but we coming back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a shame what they did to our schools, you know. They closed Fifth Avenue, and I think they changed Allegheny, didn't they?
It's a middle school now.
It's a middle school.
Yeah, but the thing about it is when I was in All City Orchestra, we would rehearse over at Fifth Avenue. You know what I mean? But yeah, we got a lot in common, man. I'm really enjoying this journey, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna
I'm
continue.
enjoying it also.
So let's talk a little bit more about Lester and Tony. Did you guys get a band together?
Yeah, we formed a band. It was called Pennsylvania Tollgate, and
I heard of that name.
We played, I guess, from Erie down to Clarksburg, West Virginia, to over in Ohio. You know, pretty much all in this area.
Now I got a question for you. Was you still playing on pots and pans at this point?
No, at that time I had some keto congas.
Now let me ask you. Now tell us about this, man. The first time you got your own congas, man. What was that all like for you, man? How did that make you feel? Where'd you get them at? Just tell us about that.
It was a transition because playing on pots and pans, you really get just one note. As you started playing on congas, you find out that when you hit it in different spots, it's a different note. So
Right.
I had to find out how to actually blend all this information. And so I went to the Manchester's Craftsman Guild, and I took a lesson from Mr. Joe Harris.
Oh yeah.
And Mr. Harris I didn't know who Joe Harris was.
You know now.
But then I found out some of the stuff that I found out about Mr. Harris. He actually taught me about how to use the heel-toe approach on congas. And he was teaching me, and it's a reading method, how you can read percussion instruments. And so as he began to teach me this, he told me that he couldn't teach me anything else. He could, you know, he went to his limit, and that I should look into a guy who he played with, who was Channa Posa. He played in the Duke Ellington band. And actually this was the first start of percussions being played in America. Channa Posa he was a Cuban, he brought percussions back to America because us as Africans, we weren't allowed to play percussions. percussions, they felt as though that we were communicating through the drums and would revolt. So they didn't allow us to use. The only time we were permitted to play percussions was in religious ceremonies. So we disguised it through religious ceremonies and played percussion instruments. That's one of the reasons how Harriet Tubman was able to free the slaves. So in some of the spirituals, you sing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, come aboard to carry me home." You knew that some kind of way she was coming through, and be ready, because she's going to carry you to the north, carry you home. So through those types of mechanisms, that kind of piqued my interest and started having me explore the history of congas and how did congas become so prevalent in the Latin American countries and weren't permitted here. And then that's how I found out that us as slaves, we weren't permitted to play them. But Cuba had the second largest slave port in the Americas. So, and all the African rhythms were transported into Cuba and throughout the Latin American countries, and that's how come it's actually labeled Afro-Cuban type of music when they express the how music is being played today, and what the significance is. And the major significance is that below the Sahara, as Africans began to play music, we had what's called a call and response to our music. If you look at the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean beats today, they're basically from Ghana, from West Africa.
Oh, okay.
If you look at some of the more Latin rhythms today, they're from around the Congo, and that's a heavy Latin influence. And when jazz and R&B and a lot of that is from roots are in Southern Africa with that 6/8 time and stuff like that there. So it's a rich history, and that's what actually taking that lesson from Mr. Joe Harris put me on that journey, and it makes me like a student for life. I'm still studying, man, and it's an exciting venture.
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey, right? Now let me ask you this: the Pennsylvania toll gate. When you were playing with them, you played with Tony Bennett?
I didn't play with Tony. Well, when I played with Pennsylvania toll gate, we did like private parties. We did a private party for Tony Bennett. Lena Horne.
Okay, for Tony Bennett and Lena Horne.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what was that like?
Oh, it was real exciting. It was so nice to meet people like that up close and personal, because you would see them as legends, and then to find yourself in a setting where you are tense, you don't want to make any mistakes, you hope that you be acceptable, and just try to make some beautiful music, with the people that you're with.
Now, how did you guys get these gigs like that? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, different band members and they different people had different contacts.
Okay.
And well, actually, I looked up, I found myself. Where are we going?
Yeah.
We're playing here.
Yeah.
So that's the way that happened.
Now, when you left Pennsylvania Tollgate, you moved to another group. Was that Love and Happiness?
Love and Happiness.
Yeah.
Band.
Just tell us about that.
I was with. I had been with. There was a bass player that I knew. His name was. We call him Brother G's, Quincy Wilborn, and it was Gerald Woods. Gerald had been playing with Wild Man Steve. He was on the road with him, and he came back home and formed a group, and he got us all together, and we started playing around in the band, The Love and Happiness. We basically did a lot of R&B and pop stuff at that time. That was a great group, man. I really enjoyed it. We were more on the road, traveling from Michigan down to Tennessee,
Yeah.
and all those areas, you know. It was a great time.
How did you like that though, traveling? How was that? How was life on the road like that for you?
I did miss my family at times, you know, and then it was a time that, you know, finances were tight. You know what I mean? The band was struggling to make it, you know what I mean? But the band wasn't struggling, the band was working, but it wasn't, we were doing more weekend work, you know, and when my responsibilities with my family, you know, and I had to kind of retire from the group.
Okay, well, when you say your family, at this point, were you married?
Oh yeah, at that point, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was married.
Now, when did that happen for you?
That was around in the 70s, right, 77.
Now, was this, did you get married before Pennsylvania Tollgate?
Yes.
You did?
Around the time, it was around the 70s. I don't know, it's so many years now, it gets blurry, you know?
The reason why I'm asking is now, I wasn't aware of that, but now that I am, I'd like to know, what was it like for you being married and being out there like that and being traveling? I know you said you miss your family.
Yeah.
But other than that, what was that whole thing like for you, man, being?
Well, you know, it's, I enjoyed, you know, playing the performance, you know, but at night you're in a hotel and you're far away from your family, your babies is growing. You know, it gets the road, you know, at first it's exciting and then, you know, there's another aspect to it, you know.
You know, but listening to you from what you're saying, it sounds like to me that your wife was very supportive.
Yes, my wife was. I've been married twice. My first wife, she passed on me. So at that particular time, that's where I was at with in my music career.
Right.
And she passed. We were together like 27 years.
Wow.
You know,
Sorry to hear that.
And but you know, we had a beautiful time together. You know, I mean, we had beautiful kids. You know, and. They're moving positive, and it was a beautiful experience. You know, you know, it was just that time in my life.
Okay. Now, you played for Love and Happiness, and then you retired from Love and Happiness.
Right.
Now, before we go on, this is what I want to know. Pennsylvania Tollgate, man, you guys was playing for people like Tony Bennett and Lena Horne, but you left the group.
Yeah.
What happened, man?
I went to college. I started going to college.
And that's when you hooked up with Love and Happiness?
No. I went to Love and Happiness. I was with Love and Happiness before, and then I transitioned to college.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that you left Pennsylvania Tollgate and then you went to Love and Happiness.
Right.
Why did you leave Pennsylvania Tollgate? Did somebody steal your wallet in the band?
Oh, no.
Did y'all have a big fight on the bus?
Oh, no.
Or did Love and Happiness offer you more money? You see where I'm going?
Well,
what made you go from that band to the other band?
Well, I didn't go from one band to the other. Love and Happiness, the Pennsylvania Tollgate band, you know, we had played a while, and then it kind of dissolved. One of the members moved to California, another one moved off to Chicago and stuff
so
like
like
that.
You said, it dissolved.
Yeah. And at that particular time, I would just do jam sessions, you know, and do stuff like that. And I was at the Crawford's Grill doing a jam session. And that's when I met with Gerald Woods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I had another story. I was at the Crawford Grill one night. George Benson was playing.
Okay.
And I was in the front booth. I got up to go order something to eat. And as I came back, I turned around and looked at the stage. Someone bumped me. And I turned back around. It was Stevie Wonder.
Get out of here.
Stevie Wonder. He said, "Oh, man." I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Here, man, take my seat," you know. He took my seat. He brought his harmonica out, and him and George like jammed the Crawford Grill like nobody's business, man. It was just a beautiful experience, you know. So that was being there's perks like being, you know, around the music and loving music, you know, and you find yourself, being blessed in different ways.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, man. And I didn't know Stevie Wonder was ever at the Crawford Grill.
Yeah.
He was, and you was there.
Yeah, and I was there. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Now, like you said, you retired from Love and Happiness. So when we come back, will you tell us what you did next?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Garl Germany, up close and personal.
Sweet loving in the morning time, all day through the afternoon. Oh, baby, can I help myself just to think of you? Oh, you're so fine, babe. Give me a sign, babe. When the evening comes, I'm like, we'll be one all night long till the break of dawn. 'Cause we could kick it, yeah, yeah. We could kick it all night, baby. Hey, we could kick it, yeah. We could kick it, yeah, yeah. Hey. Come on, sugar, let's take a ride. Cruise away to your paradise. Oh, baby, can you feel the breeze? Lay your mind at ease. I love to make it mine, babe. Give me a sign, lady. I got my eyes on you. For the night is through, please tell me what to do to get with you. 'Cause we could kick it, yeah, yeah. Hey. We can kick it all night, baby. Hey. We can kick it, yeah, yeah. We can kick it all night, baby. Hey. Sweet loving in the morning, all day through the afternoon. Oh, baby, can I help myself just to dream of you? 'Cause you're so fine, baby. Give me a sign. I got my eyes on you before the night is through. Please tell me what to do to get with you. 'Cause we could kick it, yeah, yeah. We could kick it all night, baby. Hey, kick it, yeah. We could kick it, baby. Oh. Kick it, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Mr. Garl Germany, percussionist extraordinaire. The guys you got in your band now, we just seen perform, who is that? Who are the guys you got on?
We got Craig King, who's the lead vocalist and plays guitar. We have Mr. Gordon Geary, He's on the bass guitar. We have Mr. Alvin Owens, who's the drummer, and myself on percussion.
Yeah, you guys is kicking, man.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, you know, before we move on, earlier we were talking about when you were with the band Love and Happiness, and I just happened to be looking at your bio here. You didn't mention this, but I want to mention this, the fact that you guys were, you were on shows with like Lakeside, Earth, Wind and Fire. That's pretty big, man. Those are national acts,
Yes.
you know, and Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Come on, man. But what was that like, man? I mean,
Well, it was impressive because at that particular time, you know, Lakeside, well, we were at Duquesne University, you know, Lakeside, you know, we just knew that we were at the college playing, and then all of a sudden it exploded, you know, we were at the arena and, you know, other venues, you know, and it was just so impressive, you know. You wake up and one day you're playing a local club, and next day here you are playing with some of these national acts, you know. So it was an exciting time.
Yeah. Now you left Love and Happiness, and you're on stage, national acts, Earth, Wind and Fire, and then you end up in the classroom.
Yeah.
Big transition, man. How did that all come about for you?
It was a transition. Well, you know, I wanted to try to provide for a better life for my family. So I knew I had to make some sacrifice. You know, it couldn't have been all about me, you know. So I just started pursuing an education, and I went in the field of social work.
Okay.
It was somewhat of a transition because it's, at least what I do now, I'm a therapist with an organization called Wesley Spectrum Services. And we counsel juveniles with anger management and to try to keep a family together. You know, we identify a problem in a family and try to help them solve some of the issues in their lives, you know, especially through anger or violence, or if the court appoints someone to come in, and we'll be that someone to come in as a therapist to identify the problem and help the family solve it and hopefully move them forward.
Now, I know you went to the University of Pittsburgh, right, to obtain this education. And what's impressive to me is that not only did you did an undergraduate, but you went on where you got your master's degree.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's to be commendable.
Oh,
man.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
wasn't just sitting in the back of the class.
No, well, my passion, I love to work. I love to learn, and I love being creative. You know, playing my percussions and stuff, it's like a godly thing to me. You know, it's like trying to honor the creator. So it's about being creative, and that's my passion. I love to learn because, you know, it enriches me. You know, it's like a self-help. You know, when you learn something, once you learn it, you know, no one can take it away from you. You know, whether it's prejudice, whether they dislike you, they hate you, but it's something that enriches yourself and your soul. And I love the work because, you know, it provides me some of the things that I want in life, and it helped me take care of my family. So that's where my passion is.
Yeah, that's just beautiful. Now, what about this Clifford Robertson's band, man? Because I know that you know, after you got you're in school, you got your degree. Of course, that music ain't went nowhere, and you joined this Clifford Robertson band. What was that like?
Well, it was, while I was in school, you know, I could play with Clifford because it was more local. It wasn't like being in a Love and Happiness band, you know, where it was a heavy travel commitment. I could play with Clifford Robinson, and we just played, you know, locally.
Oh, okay. So this is why you were still in school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you know, it was just around the local areas, you know, that we played. So that kind of fulfilled my.
Yeah. So they kept the cobwebs off you, huh?
Kind of, you know. Yeah. But you know, I had to, far as education and study, methods had changed. So my education, at first I was like struggling, and then I found out some tips and some of the newer educational things that helped me to keep up with classwork. So because it had been a year since I had been to school, so it was a beautiful type of enriching, something to learn, some new techniques to learn.
Yeah. Now, I know you used to, I don't know if you still do, but I know you used to go to jam sessions.
I do,
Yeah.
but not as often because now I have my own band. My own band is the Tasty Flavor.
Yeah.
And so, basically it's about trying to locate work for us and, trying to keep us up and going.
Yeah.
Because we all constantly still go to jam sessions because we love to hear other musicians,
Right.
and there's still some very talented and beautiful musicians in Pittsburgh.
Oh, it always was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Tasty Flavor, where'd that name come from?
Well, actually, one of the band members, he suggested he use the name Taste of Flavor. And I thought, I said, well, the Taste of Flavor, that's all right. I said, but, it's more like it should be a tasty. Like, you can feel the taste and you can, get the flavor inside you.
Okay.
And so that's why we came up with the name Taste of Flavor.
Now, looking at your bio here, I see you also joined the Central Baptist Church.
Yes, I played with Central Baptist Church.
Yeah, you played the congas for the
Yeah, I
church.
played the congas for the church for a while. That actually started piquing my interest again after I had, somewhat of a layoff and back in school and stuff. So as I began to play for the church, and at this particular time, my first wife had passed. So it was the church helped me, grow through that experience and playing with the church, and they were exploring some of my talent because they hadn't realized that I could play also. So, it was a good crutch to bridge me to another life, another wife. And I'm married now to Teresa Garl Germany. It's a beautiful help to me.
Yeah.
And it's just a blessing.
Now, while you were healing from the passing of your first wife, do you think that your playing played a big role in that healing process for you?
It did because when it first happened, you could only think about the sickness. And through playing, if I had played and I started thinking about her, it started breaking through, blossoming through some of the good times that we had, the experience with our children and stuff like that there.
Right.
It opened my heart to a new relationship once I met my new wife, Teresa. And she was so supportive, in helping me heal too. So it's been a healing process, and it's something in life that you never get over, but you learn to live with.
Okay. Yeah. Now I know I did a show with Howard Hewitt over at the Kelly Strayhorn and Antoinette Manganis. And I caught sight of, that's where I first met you. You were playing with a guy named Tubby Daniels.
Tubby Daniels.
Yeah. How did that all come about for you? How did you hook up with Tubby?
Tubby, me and Tubby known one another like pretty much all our life.
Is that right?
Yeah, his dad's a boxer, Mr. Charlie Daniels.
Yes, he is.
And he also went to the church, Central Baptist Church with us. So I knew Tubby played, and one night I said, hey, Tub, I got my new drums, man. I got to come out and play. And I started playing with him, and we just kept playing together. And next thing I know, I was part of the band.
Boy, I tell you.
He's an exceptional musician too.
Yes,
I
he
love
is.
Tubby.
Yes, he is. And you guys, you sound really good together too. As
Thank
well.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now look, when we come back, I'd like to talk about some of your, I guess what we call political involvement. I'm not going to say it right now. Y'all just going to have to keep tuning in. Don't go nowhere. That they used to say, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with Mr. Garl Germany, up close and personal.
I guess you wonder where I've been, trying to find a love there. I came back to let you know that I care for you and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me, 'cause I'm in no day for your love, you see. I came back to let you know that I care for you and I can't let go. People search around the world for love, they got no find. You've been dreaming of what you won't do to fall love, babe. Tried everything, but you won't give up. In my world, only you made me do for love what I would not do, yeah. Ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, oh yeah. Ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, yeah. Ba 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 ba. My friends wonder what is wrong with me, 'cause I'm in the day for your love, you see. I came back to let you know, got a thing for you, and I can't let go. People search around the world for love, they got no find. You've been dreaming of what you won't do to fall in love, babe. You tried everything, but you won't give up. In my world, only you made me do for love what I will not do, yeah. Hey, hey, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, yeah. Ba 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 ba, ba ba. Ba ba ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. my world, only you. Make me do for love what I will not do. Make me do for love what I will not do. Make me do for love what I will not do. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ba 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 ba. 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 Yeah. Ba da 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 da. Ba ba.
Yeah, we're sitting here with Mr. Garl Germany. Now, throughout this program, you have been entertained by Mr. Germany's band, Tasty Flavor. Now, Mr. Germany, let's talk. Let's talk. Listen at this. Garl was elected Pennsylvania State 5th Ward Constable, and that's pretty impressive as well, because it says you were elected, which means people voted for you, man. People believed in you. How does that make you feel?
I'm proud of all the people. I would like to thank them for voting for me over the years. They voted for me for state legislator. They voted for me for constable. They voted for me for city council, and I appreciate that. You know, I've always been an activist. I've been involved in political affairs and activism for civil rights. You know, pretty much my whole life. You know, whenever I see some type of injustice, man, I just feel as though that it's my duty to go out there and, you know, say something or voice some type of opinion for it. And that's how I actually became involved with running for office and becoming elected a constable, just to see if I can help somebody. You know, I was available for them.
Well, I appreciate you telling me that. You know
Thank
why?
you. Why?
So I ain't gonna say no names, but somebody owed me some money. When we get out of here, I want to talk to you about that. Now look here. You already talked about the Wesley Spectrum situation, right? Now I want to ask you this. We know you have your own band now. Are we going to get a CD from Garl Germany?
Well, it's probably in the future. Actually, first, right now, there's so many things that I'm still, you know, working on. So we haven't had the opportunity to collaborate and put all our stuff down as to what we really want to do. If it's going to be a R&B, is it going to be a fusion, is it going to be a jazz piece, you know. But it'll probably be a combination of all that stuff.
So in other words, the CD is on the table, you just haven't gotten around to making it reality yet.
Yes, sir.
Good. So keep tuned in, because it's coming at you live in 3D. Now let me ask you this again. When you look back on all of this, do you have any regrets?
My philosophy is that a life without any regrets is not a well-lived life, man. You know, I have some regrets, you know, but it's all a learning process. I wouldn't be the person who I am today if I didn't regret some things, but then I wouldn't have the results that I have today. You know, it's a learning experience. You know, it's like the Lord shuts one door to force you through another door to open your eyes to another horizon. You know, it's things that you can't see in your present state, that you have to move forward in order to see what's out in front of you. And so I have regrets, but they're not regrets that I harbor that's going to stunt my growth or anything like that, because I still feel like I'm still a student, man. I'm going to be a student for life, you know.
Yeah. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that they say, man, how can I get in touch with this dude? You know what I mean? So y'all go get your pencils and everything, and Mr. Germany's going to let you know how you can get in touch with him. But is there anything that you have not done that you still would like to do? Yeah.
There's some things that I do. I'm still actively involved in counseling. I would like to counsel young adults, youth more. I like to see them get, I like to teach some youth some percussions. All my kids, they know the Joe Harris heel toe hand con, even though he didn't know it.
Yeah.
They all know that technique. I try to pursue things that that'll help children. I like to, I work out at a CIS office. I like to go to some of those different CIS programs and help the kids try to set goals for themselves, try to change their perspective. Pretty much almost under the same vein that Mr. Jones, did with me, Just try to give you a new sense of purpose and a new tool to work with so that you don't necessarily have to look for fault in something else as to enrich yourself. You can enrich yourself with your own aspirations if you can set a goal and work to achieve it. That's where, that's the way I try to help the kids.
All right, all right. Now, how can people get in touch with you?
Through Wesley Spectrum. You could call Wesley Spectrum Services. That number is 412-342-2300, and ask for Garl Germany. I'm there as a therapist and a counselor. My email address is ggermany3@yahoo.com.
Okay. So, all right, you know how to get in touch with Mr. Germany. And I tell you, man, I really appreciate you coming down, man, and sharing some of your experiences in your life with us, man. I know you got a busy schedule, but you still took time to come down and talk to us, and we appreciate that.
I appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure to meet you. I heard so much about you. I hear you're a musician also.
Yeah, I tinker with the drums a little bit.
You're going to have to come and jam with the band, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Now, let me ask you one last question. Is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like for us to know?
I like for you to know that the musicians in the band are some of the greatest guys around. One of the unique things about the band is that my bass player, Mr. Gordon Geary, his mother was my Fifth Avenue High School teacher.
Get out of here.
Mr. Alvin Owens, who plays the drums for us, he played with Roy Ayers' band. Mr. Craig King, who sang lead and vocal, we were raised in the Hill District together. He lived on Whiteside Road, so
Okay.
It's a close-knit family, and it's funny how we all blended together at this particular time in our life, to do some exploring musical things.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we like to leave you with this thought. No matter where you at, no matter what you do, make somebody happy, make somebody strong. We're going to leave you with the sounds of Mr. Garl Germany's band, Tasty Flavor. See you.
Takes my mind with their name. Living in the darkness, yeah. I was living in the darkness, yeah. All my trouble, so I choose. I was living in the darkness, yeah. All my troubles, so I choose, yeah. I got a wife and a baby, yeah, yeah. Oh, and now my love has claimed its fame, yeah. Oh, slipping in the darkness, yeah. I was slipping in the darkness, yeah. All right. When I heard my mama say, what she say? I was slipping in the darkness, yeah. All right. When I heard my mama say, what she say, what she say, what she say? So you've been living in the darkness, yeah. Oh, and pretty soon you're gonna pay. Living in the darkness, yeah. All right. I was living in the darkness, yeah. All right. the fight. Don't give up the fight. Give up the fight, baby. Garl Germany in the house, y'all. Garl Germany in the house, y'all. On the Cougar. Taste the flavor in the house. Alvin Owens on the drum. Alvin Owens on the drum. The Double G on the bass going gay and My name is Craig King. Listening to this Taste the Flavor, baby.